Hey everyone, it's Dan and Don, and we're from theclinicaltrialsguru.com. Once again, that website address is www.theclinicaltrialsguru.com. Today, we're very happy and very lucky to be interviewing Jonathan Andrews. He's the VP of Data Management and Quality from BioClinica, and he's going to tell us a little bit more about what he does. But he manages the data operations, IVR, IWR services, quality for the eClinical Solutions division of BioClinica, and he's got a lot of experience as far as from this angle of clinical trials. And this interview might appeal to a lot of you research professionals out there that are industry professionals in clinical trials. But some of you study participants might find some of this background stuff helpful in any way. So without further ado, Jonathan, welcome to the show.
Great, thank you. Good to be here.
Can you tell us a little bit about you? Just give us an introduction. Who are you? How'd you get started in this field? And we'll just go from there.
Sure. I originally got involved back about 16 years ago with a company called Premier Research Worldwide, and started off as just in data coordination with that organization, and got involved with data review within clinical trials, actually using a fax-based data collection tool, because at the EDC was not all that well embraced. In fact, we typically refer to it as RDE at the time. So kind of moved my way up through that organization within Premier, and then moved into consulting for a while in systems implementation and validation, quality management system work. And then joined a company called Phoenix Data Systems about 9 years ago, which was actually an organization that was acquired by Bioimaging Technologies, which is now known as BioClinica. So here we are today, and in my current role, oversee all aspects of study build and design for case report forms and edit checks and data cleaning rules, SaaS services and data management, and also including interactive voice and web randomization within the organization as well. External at BioClinica, I've been very involved in through both board and other activities with the Society for Clinical Data Management, the Drug Information Association, as well as the Clinical Data Interchange Standards Consortium, or CDISC. And also in the past few years have been working and speaking a lot through ACRP, the Clinical Research Professionals Group, really talking about how data management and CRAs can collaborate more effectively for carrying out clinical trials, how we can work more hand in hand versus against each other in outlining better ways to arrive at good quality data. So that's kind of me in a nutshell.
Thank you, Jonathan. Can you give us a little overview, maybe a bird's eye view of BioClinica, what it is, what its function is in this industry, and who it serves?
Sure. We do, well, first of all, BioClinica has two divisions, two primary divisions, eClinical and imaging. And I'll start with eClinical and then touch a little bit on the imaging side, although admittedly my focus is going to be on eClinical. So on the eClinical side of the house, we really serve, I'd say, small to medium-sized pharma, biotech, and medical device companies, where they come to us with the need for electronic data capture or CTMS needs, or IVR. And from a EDC and data management and IVR perspective, we can really provide some good software as a service, where those organizations come and we work with them in building and deploying studies for them around the world, and then also manage those data as they come in. So we help clean and code and prepare those data for submission purposes. From a CTMS perspective, we work with organizations on building and deploying CTMS systems within their organizations, and then essentially train them to be able to continue to maintain those systems over time, so that they can be effective in laying out the necessary clinical trial management tracking sheets and everything else they need to effectively manage their studies from a CTMS standpoint. So that's the eClinical services side. On the imaging side, Basically, we work with customers in imaging endpoint analysis. So whether it's some type of orthopedic study or oncology study, we provide the clinical analysis of those images for primary and secondary endpoints in clinical trials from an imaging standpoint. I won't speak much more to it because it's not my area of expertise by far, but and a lot of those customers on the imaging side tend to be on the larger side, where the imaging services side tends to work with medium to large pharma. Although on the eClinical side, we're finding that we're getting a lot of good traction with larger pharma companies, especially with our Trident IVR and our CTMS platforms.
Jonathan, could you
Yes.
clarify for the study participants that might be listening exactly what is data capturing?
Sure. So data capture can be either the direct capture of clinical trial data into an ECRF. Data capture might be the transcription of data from some type of source, whether it be an electronic medical record or an actual paper source document at the site, into an electronic case report form in a electronic data capture tool. So again, in typical studies, our product is a proprietary built system called Express. Other systems like it, Phase Forward's Inform system, Metadata Rave, those are examples of electronic data capture tools. So just to kind of give some examples of what those might look like.
Yeah, recently there's been an explosion in the competitiveness of this data capture sub industry within the clinical trial space. And now you guys, BioClinica, you've been in this space for quite some time. Is that correct?
Right. So BioClinica itself's been around since 1990, so we're in our 21st year. We've been a part of the Express platform and the EDC and data capture that I was speaking of. That organization originally started in 1997, and then we were acquired by Bioimaging Technologies in 2008. So we've been a part of the BioClinica organization since March, a little over 3 years now. So, and since that time, we've really grown a lot in the eClinical space, adding in additional tools and technologies to our overall eClinical platform and eClinical suite of tools.
Okay. And you guys serve customers such as large pharma, biotech. Are you guys yourself a CRO, or do you partner with the CRO?
We consider ourselves to be more of a not full service in the sense that we don't do clinical monitoring, we don't do medical writing, we don't provide statistical services, but we do provide full service data management. So, we provide full study build. So we help lay out case report forms and specify those out. We program, and specify all the edit checks, and we do data cleaning. So we have on staff clinical and technological people that are able to review the data on an ongoing basis to make sure that it makes clinical sense. We do medical coding here, so we code against MedDRA and WHO. And then we also provide SaaS services too, so we can do tables, listings, and figure work, as well as SDTM, which is lots of acronyms in this industry, but SDTM is the data tabulation model that's following CDISC standards for actually producing submission grade data sets for submission to the FDA. And that's really where we focus, is on the data and the data alone. We don't get into other aspects of what other full service contract research organization would do.
Right. Now, for the coordinators out there who may have actually used your platforms, what are the names? What's the actual name of your most well-used platform? Is it just BioClinica?
It's BioClinica Express.
Okay.
Others might know it as PDS Express, because when we were Phoenix Data Systems, it was branded that. But when we became BioClinica, it became BioClinica Express. Our IVR platform is known as Trident. That's a relatively new release product. Actually, at the end of March, it was our first production release of that product. And since then, in less than about 2.5 months since it's been in production, we've launched 8 studies into production with that, and it's really, as its name implies, has really taken off like a Trident missile. So it's doing quite well in that, and that's referred to again as BioClinica's Trident product. And then our CTMS platform, BioClinica actually acquired a company called Transcenda, which was based in Washington State, and we've rebranded that. That's our Office Smart clinical trial management tool. So those are the main products that we sell and also use.
We're gonna have to call in our coordinators to ask if they've used them and to give a review of the products. But he probably doesn't want to come over here right now.
He's a bit camera shy. We've been trying to get him in front of the camera for a long time. He's actually very good at what he does. Now, with this new Trident product you have, is it more user-friendly? What's the advantage for a coordinator using that product versus what's already on the market?
Yeah, I mean, from a coordinator's perspective, I mean, most of our customers have been using it from an IWR, so an interactive web randomization. Although it's fully phone-based too. So if you need to deploy it using touch-tone telephone, when we build it internally for the randomization schemes and the blocks and the strata necessary for the study, with the click of a button, we can actually deploy it in phone-based modalities too. So it's nice from that perspective to be able to build it once and then deploy it for various ways of capturing that data. But I think from a study coordinator's perspective, just a very easy, user-friendly, intuitive and user-friendly interface for them to go about entering the necessary data and randomizing and enrolling that particular patient. It's got a direct interface to our electronic data capture tool, so any data entered in the Trident platform auto-populates into our Express EDC platform, so you don't have redundant data capture. What's captured here is pushed into our Express tool, and vice versa. So if there's activities that are done in Express that can populate into Trident, they don't have to repeat a lot of the same. So hopefully one of the big benefits is the reduction in redundancy of data collection.
So from a coordinator's perspective, that would save them a lot of time too.
Right, absolutely. But probably the biggest difference between our system and other platforms that are out there is really around study build, which obviously doesn't have that big of an effect on study coordinators, but to the clinical project managers and others involved more on the back end of things, it's a huge time savings. We can actually build and deploy studies in about 2 to 3 weeks compared to industry averages of more in the neighborhood of 8 to 12 weeks. So that's the big difference. And it's also really the first parameter-based IVR platform that's out there. So it doesn't require custom code. We can actually just configure the tool with the features that are there. It's very GUI or graphical user interface oriented. So when you go to set it up, it's very straightforward to do. So.
Yeah, I think I can speak for all the coordinators from what I hear. They prefer whatever system that keeps queries to a minimum.
Right.
So if you guys have that, that would be great. Now, switching gears now, because a lot of the study participants watching, they may be asking themselves, well, what's data collection? How is my information kept confidential with all these fancy softwares going around? How is my personal information kept confidential? Can you kind of talk to us a little bit about that for the study participant out there?
Yeah, I mean, from a study participant perspective, I mean, we are very sensitive to what I'll refer to as protected health information, what HIPAA refers to as protected health information. And typically the way that studies are structured, that particular study participant is only known to us by a number. A lot of times our customers today don't even want to collect patient initials, don't want to collect things that could even in any remote way link it back to a certain individual. So it's something that we're very sensitive to. We in fact, as an organization, BioClinica, are registered through Safe Harbor. Which Safe Harbor is a Department of Commerce organization that basically we certify not only in the United States but also in Europe that any data that we collect is only going to be used for research purposes. It's not going to be used for any untoward reasons. We're not going to solicit or use their information for other reasons. But frankly, the types of data we collect, especially in a relational database, is never going to contain any information that's going to be related to what HIPAA would refer to as kind of the unique identifiers that would give us the ability to to use that information in any type of untoward or inappropriate manner. So, and again, most of our customers, most of our sponsors that we work with are even more hypersensitive than we are to using, anything that could be construed as, protected or individually identifiable health information. So.
Right. Yeah, and for the study participants out there, you got to understand that it starts with the site. The way the site collects the information is already non-identified. It's called de-identified. And so
Yep.
by the time they enter it into a data collection system like BioClinica has, you're already working with de-identified data. So anything that's uploaded there has already been de-identified, but BioClinica takes the additional steps to make sure that that is indeed the case, that there is nothing on there that could compromise your confidentiality.
Right, and in the instances where we would receive something, whether it be, some type of hospital report or what have you, we have procedures in place that require us to redact that information immediately upon receiving it, so that it's not floating around the organization in some way that it shouldn't be. So
how would that work? Let's say a coordinator has a hospital note. Is he able to upload that note straight to your system?
A hospital note. I guess the one example I was giving on our imaging services side of BioClinica, there's occasion when we're receiving images, medical images, etc., from research sites where sometimes the patient information has not been redacted on the image or the film that's been collected. And in those cases, again, because we've been registered and have, certainly subject to both FDA as well as other sponsor-based inspections and audits, have clear procedures in place that if that were to be received, that is completely obliterated on the image so that it's taken away, so that patient confidentiality is maintained, and that's not used and is not circulating around. But on the e-clinical services side, the data that we're receiving is coming directly through the CTMS, IVR, and EDC systems, which we're typically not uploading anything into it, and it's either being transcribed from some other record, or it's being entered directly into the electronic case report form if we're doing what we call direct data capture, meaning there's no paper records at all, where we're just doing direct bedside data collection into the case report, into the electronic case report form.
So you guys, I didn't know this, you guys can also get audited by the FDA.
Absolutely. Yep.
There's an example of maybe a coordinator forgetting to de-identify some information, like in the case that you just brought up about the medical imaging. Let's say the coordinator inadvertently forgets to blank out the initials or the date of birth or whatever it is that gives away the identity or may compromise the study participant's identity. You guys can ensure the study participant and I guess the FDA that you've taken additional steps to make sure that even if you do get such type of information, that you will go ahead and get rid of that identified information.
So exactly that. So in the unlikely event that we receive something that we know is, has potentially identifiable health information in it, we again have, said procedures in place to take care of those things. So
very good. That should be very reassuring to the study participants out there.
Definitely. I mean, without getting into the intricate designs of the computer software, but it tells me if you have indicators in it that can pick up names. I mean, how would you do that if let's say, within a progress note, they're putting information from a progress note into the system, and they happen to put someone's name.
Right.
And your system can pick that up.
Well, if it's in a progress note, which means it's probably going to be in a free text field if they were to enter that into some aspect of the electronic case report form, because it's in a free text field, if we're providing data management services, it's clear to our staff here that if they encounter anything that is identifiable, that they are to query back to that site asking for the removal of that information from that, because again, it's electronic data capture. we don't have the ability to change data in the system because the record was created by the site.
Right.
And so we're going to ask them, because of the nature of what they've written into that field, that they need to, make the necessary changes to remove that information. And again, this happens very, very rarely because,
Right.
frankly, because we follow a lot of what CDISC, which is that acronym I mentioned before, the industry standard for data collection. We follow their recommendations for case report form design, which means that we try and limit the amount of free text fields that are available to a study coordinator to be able to enter that kind of information. We really try to only capture the data that's absolutely necessary as per the protocol and as per the primary and secondary endpoints and primary safety and efficacy. So.
Wow.
Yeah, and it makes sense. There's additional safeguards there, and it's good that we were focusing on this because one of the most frequently asked questions we get is, will my information be kept confidential? And for study participants, you may not even care what a ECRF is or what all this stuff that we're talking about is, but just know, I guess the take-home message is that yes, there are plenty of safeguards in place and a lot of redundancy in place to make sure that your information is completely kept confidential, even if the study coordinator or the research site inadvertently submits it, it'll be cut off from the ECRF platform standpoint, and that's what BioClinica is there for. So thank you for that. Thank you for that, Jonathan. Now, let's talk a little bit about you. How did you get started in this field? What makes someone want to work in this space?
Wow. I think myself, especially those that tended to end up in the, I didn't mean it the way that sounded, but for those of us that ended up more in the data management, IT, validation kind of realm, we all came at it from, I think, a lot of different aspects. And I think that's probably true in a lot of different areas. But, as I think about all the different staff in the various departments that I oversee here, some came from more of a technical background. Some have science degrees that just, got their first job doing, in-house data review. And that's kind of how I fell into it. In fact, actually, my wife was working at Premier Research Worldwide and happened to know of a position there that prior to that, I knew nothing about it. I was working in a hospital setting, actually in Philadelphia at Thomas Jefferson, and she knew of this position within Premier in this data management department, which I knew nothing about. Just coming in and doing review of data based upon the protocol and based upon manual data review guidelines. So I applied for it and was accepted for the position and just kind of ran from there. And was very fortunate and blessed to be surrounded with people who gave me opportunities to really stretch my wings and grow from there, and had a lot of great mentors that, as I look back over the years, really afforded me a lot of the opportunities that I had to be where I am today. And I think a lot, that could be said of a lot of different folks within this space that, whether they came and maybe they were a nurse in a typical, healthcare setting and decided that maybe they wanted to get more into the pharmaceutical research space, and maybe I've had various folks in different groups that I've overseen over the years that, come to a place where they want to get out of the day-to-day routine practice of nursing and care like that, and want to be more involved with some, still applying the skills and knowledge that they have, but applying them to clinical research activities and clinical studies. And so that's one example. Others come from more of a technical background where maybe they're programmers or they enjoy the programming aspect. They're SAS programmers, or they enjoy programming, database logic, but maybe they were working in some other, maybe in a telephony field or some other area and decide they want to get into this space. So they come at it from that angle and then grow into that position. So there's not really a school or a degree that you can come away with, I think, that prepares you for it. I was fortunate that, for my graduate education, I actually went to Temple University. Actually has a graduate school in quality assurance and regulatory affairs that's focused on, the clinical research space and how you can apply drug regulations to the study life cycle approach. And so that's, was a great experience for me, and I learned a lot, was able to network a lot through that. So there's a lot of good graduate programs, I think, for folks that tend to specialize more in pharmaceuticals than I think undergraduate, for sure. So I think from an educational perspective, I think there's things post bachelor's that really tend to focus a lot more on this particular space, whether it's MBA programs that focus on the pharmaceutical marketing or pharmaceutical areas, or even graduate degrees that are offered that tend to focus on clinical research. So I think from an academic perspective, that's another way where people get more exposure to that and come into it, into the space from there.
Now, Jonathan, talk to us a little bit about some of the organizations you're involved with outside of BioClinica.
Sure. So, for I guess the past 7 years now, I've been on the board of the Society for Clinical Data Management. SCDM, which is the acronym, is a not-for-profit organization that's focused on the profession of data management. And similar to ACRP, which probably many of your listeners are more familiar with, where the clinical research professionals, which offers different certifications. So whether you're a CCRA or a CCRP, if you're a certified clinical research professional or a certified clinical research associate, SCDM also offers a certified clinical data manager designation. So for those individuals who want to be recognized as certified in the field of data management or the profession of data management, we have basically a body of knowledge. So we have a what's called a good clinical data management practices document, and that provides best practices for implementing data management practices in industry. And then individuals can certify against that body of knowledge by taking what's called our Certified Clinical Data Manager exam, which is administered by testing centers all over the world. Right now, we have about 2,800 members within the society, about 75% U.S., 25% outside the United States, as more and more activities around data management and programming are occurring in Asian countries. We have more folks getting certified to that. So we're really expanding. We've translated our good clinical data management practices document into a variety of languages, Japanese, Korean. We're continuing to expand to probably translating into simplified Chinese, again, for folks around the world to be able to access and learn best practices for setting up data management organizations all over the world. So that's SCDM. And then right now I'm the current chair of DIA's, the Drug Information Association's eClinical Advisory Committee. And so really my role in that has been in running our core committee meetings and folks that are interested in the eClinical space that really covers everything of all the different e-enabled tools that we use today for carrying out clinical trials. Back in March, we ran a conference down in Arlington, Virginia on data quality and really tried to bring together professionals from across the entire research arena, both data and clinical and stats and others together in the same room to talk about what is it and how is it that we can work more effectively together to achieving better data quality through eClinical tools, through best practices and things like that.
And this is at DIA, right?
This is DIA.
Yeah, now kind of to get off topic a little, how valuable is it for someone in the clinical trials industry to be involved with DIA? Because I know I was a member for a couple years. I'm no longer a member. Have you ever been involved?
Just companies I've worked for have.
Yeah.
I've worked for larger research companies that were involved.
How important is it? Is it like crucial for someone in this industry to be involved, or is it more of a networking opportunity? What are the benefits of being involved with the DIA?
My answer to that would be I think it's what you make it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could be a card-carrying member who doesn't participate in anything, and to your point, yeah, and to your point, what's the purpose of spending $100 and whatever a year to maintain a membership? Or you could get involved in things and getting a lot of feedback.
There we go. It's better.
Is that better?
Yeah.
So you can, involve a lot more, making a difference. Coming out of this data summit that we ran back in March, we're putting together white papers, and we, are looking at, for example, reduced source document verification. Why is it that CRAs have to go out and do 100% source document verification? What's the benefit of that, especially in today's world of e-clinical tools? Is it necessary for them to be sitting there and staring and comparing at, okay, what's here has been entered here, and are there other ways that we can do it and do it more effectively? And where is that mandated in the current codified regulations? There's nowhere that states 100% SDV is necessary, yet we all do it because we think that's the way it should be done. So, we're trying to make it that you're not just sitting by and being a member, but you're an active participant in different activities. And so, if you want to stay, up to date on where things are, and be involved, and not just be a volunteer, but actually be engaged with things, I think DIA and other organizations can really enable that to be the case. Unfortunately, you're right. I mean, even if I take SCDM as an example, we probably have, of the 2,800 members, we probably have, maybe 10 to 20% of those that are really actively, and 20% is probably a high number, are really actively engaged in things. And that's something I'm always a big champion of, that, be active, be involved, stay current with what's going on. I think is really, really, and certainly add your insight and be involved in things to make a difference. ACRP, although I'm not a member of ACRP, we actually, between SCDM and ACRP, we have what's called a memorandum of understanding between our two organizations, that we work together on different things. We've done joint webinars together. We've co-exhibited at each other's shows. And I've been involved in running workshops for them around data management and CRA collaboration. And again, those things might not have happened if no one had stepped up to it and gotten involved with that to really try and get the message out there about, how can two typical silos of data management and clinical coming together a little more closely, especially in the world of the tools and technologies that we have today. And it's only going to be getting closer and closer over time with the preponderance of electronic health and medical records, and how that interacts with clinical research. It's going to mean that we're going to have to work even more closely together. So, and I think those societies and professional organizations give people the opportunity, if they so desire, to be more engaged and involved in that. Sorry, I'll get off my box.
No, this is a good thing. Don and I are going to do a video later today about, I don't know if you've heard Pfizer starts first U.S. virtual clinical study. Have you heard?
Yeah, through Mitris. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm very familiar with it.
Do you see this as a start of a new trend, or is this something that's not going to work out? And either way, how does BioClinica fit into this picture?
I apologize. I'm getting like every seventh word or so what you're saying.
If you did read the article, like, I was going to ask you, is this the start of a new trend, or is this something that is probably not going to work out? And either way, how does BioClinica fit into this overall picture?
Okay, let me repeat back what I think I heard you say. I apologize. So this article about Pfizer and their virtual clinical trials using this Mitris technology, how does that affect industry?
Yeah.
Overall?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. No, I mean, I definitely think it's the trend. I think there's going to be a constant financial pressures on companies to continue to look for ways to streamline and cut down on costs. And I think any way that can be done, companies are going to move towards that. I think in the case of this example, these were home-based it was more of a phase 4 post-marketing type study, if I'm not mistaken, where patients were asked to, log in and kind of talk about how they feel, report anything that way throughout the course of the study. I think there certainly be placed for it, whether it's, I think clearly in the post-marketing arena and pharmacovigilance, I think those studies lend themselves quite nicely toward that type of technology. I still think in the phase 1 through 3 space, where you're coming in and having to subject your subjects or your patients to particular particular protocol-specific activities, I think that'd be difficult to do in a home-based setting. And clearly, you're not going to be able to, collect your own samples of various things and test those and take an accurate blood pressure and be assured of that in a clinical setting. So, I think there'll definitely be application for that. And I certainly foresee that growing. I mean, even the interoperability or the ability for electronic health records to communicate with electronic data capture systems, I think, is going to continue to grow. I think the impediments to that are really more around data standardization and how do you move data from those systems that are so wide and disparate. I mean, you go from research site or hospital setting or institution to institution, and they're all using different electronic medical and health record systems. So it becomes quite a technical challenge to be able to map all those data into all the different electronic data capture systems and be able to pull data out of those records and use them in a way that I think is meaningful. But I definitely think the case study that you're talking about that's had a lot of publicity lately, I think certainly it'll be interesting to see how that grows, certainly going forward in the phase 4 post-marketing arena.
Yeah, we'll do, and Don and I were going to do a follow-up video on that topic. BioClinica is a wildly popular blog, and we're going to be interviewing a lot of their bloggers. Whose idea was it to start the blog, and when did you guys actually start it?
I want to say it was probably a joint thing of Jim Dorsey, who's our vice president of marketing, and probably Jen Price. Jen Price does a lot of blogging. She really she works a lot in support of our sales group. So she's out there kind of hearing what customers are saying and challenges that they're being faced with. And so she's got a really good, kind of thumb on the pulse of what's going on with certainly current and prospective customers that we have. And because she travels quite a bit, as you've already alluded to, she really has a good opportunity to hear from all sorts of different organizations what they're struggling with. And, is also very active and involved with CDISC and has been involved in developing new data standards for the collection of data in e-clinical tools. So I think it was probably a combination of the two of them that really started up the blog within our website.
Yeah, it's a fantastic idea, and it's been going on for quite some time. So all you researchers out there, if you or even study participants, but it's mostly aimed at research professionals, people who work in this industry. It's BioClinica blog. Just Google it. We'll definitely have the links on when this video goes on our blog. So, and we're looking forward to interviewing all the other bloggers out there. And thank you very much, Jonathan, for coming on the show.
Sure. Thank you.
Talk about all day long. And I'm seeing another trend as well, because I can see it's just like us talking about Pfizer starting to do this digital research program. And it's a way for them to also ensure that they're getting quality clients. Because I can see them putting the source documents on the computer instead of having a monitor there. If the doctor doesn't fill it out, you can have the client put it out on the screen. That information is immediately captured by whoever, but it also ensures that there's nothing going on in the screen, whichever way the information goes to the information they fill it out right there on the screen. That's
Yeah, I mean, I think any way that you can help reduce the frequency by which data can be misrepresented or messed up in transcription, I think the better and better quality your data is going to be overall. So I think that's really important.
Well, thank you very much, Jonathan. Jonathan Andrews from BioClinica.com, and check them out there. And you have any questions for him, we're going to have a link to his website there, and you can check him out on their blog. And thank you very much for coming on the show today, Jonathan.
Absolutely.
Sure. Thank you.
One more thing to say is stay cool.
I'm sorry?
I said stay cool there in New York.
I will. I haven't been outside at all today, but I've heard reports that it's pretty brutal. So
Okay.
I have a pool, so I'll be in there tonight.
All right. Sounds good.
All right, thank you very much. This is Dan and Don signing off from theclinicaltrialsguru.com. Thanks a lot.